Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the world of Albert Camus, a thinker who stared right into the void of a silent universe and, instead of giving into despair, found a powerful reason to live with passion and rebellion. So, check this out. When Camus got up to accept the Nobel Prize in 1957, he didn't act like some wise old sage who had it all figured out. Nope. His words were full of humility and doubt, which really is a perfect window into a life spent wrestling with the biggest questions we can ask. And you have to understand, for Camus, this wasn't just some abstract philosophical puzzle to kick around in a cafe. This was the question, the central, urgent crisis of being a modern human. His entire life's work, all his novels, plays, and essays, is his attempt to answer it. To really get his philosophy, you've got to get the man behind it. And he was, well, a man of huge contradictions. He was forged in the bright, hot sun of his native Algeria, but also in the shadowy, intellectual cafes of a France occupied by the Nazis. I mean, look at this timeline. His life was short, yeah, tragically so, but it was absolutely packed. He went from poverty to fighting in the French resistance, and then became this huge moral voice for a whole generation. He didn't just write his philosophy, he lived it, right on the front lines of history. Okay, so all of this intense life, it all led him to his big diagnosis of what it's like to be human right now. And it all starts with one huge idea, the absurd. But for Camus, this wasn't an endpoint. It wasn't about despair. It was the crucial starting point for any authentic life. Now, Camus was super specific about what he meant here. The absurd for him isn't just a feeling of weirdness. It's not in the world, and it's not just in our heads. It's the crash, the collision, the divorce between us with our desperate need for answers and meaning, and a universe that just gives us silence. And this feeling is perfectly captured in his novel, The Stranger. The main character, Mersault, as he's facing his own death, he finds this weird sense of peace. You know how? By finally just accepting that the world really doesn't care about him one way or the other. So that leads to the big question, right? If life is absurd, what are we supposed to do about it? So once you have this unsettling realization, Camus noticed that most people try to escape. He saw two main paths they take, but for him, both were a total cop-out, a betrayal of what it means to be human. On one hand, you've got physical suicide. He rejected that, flat out. To him, that's just letting the absurd win. But then there's this other thing he called philosophical suicide, and he was just as tough on that. This is the leap of faith, just blindly jumping into a religion or a political ideology that gives you all the answers, pretending that contradiction you feel isn't real. You see, for Camus, hoping for heaven or some perfect future utopia, that's like betraying the only real thing we have, this life, right here, right now, in all its messy, difficult, beautiful grandeur. He was insistent, we have to live with the absurd, not run away from it. Okay, so if we can't escape, what do? Are we just supposed to despair? No way. Camus doesn't leave us hanging. He gives us a powerful prescription, a life of conscious, defiant rebellion. And his answer comes in three parts. It's this threefold rebellion. And it's not about solving the absurd. It's about how to live an amazing life because of it, in spite of it. All right, first up, revolt. And he's not really talking about storming the barricades here. This is an inner revolt. It's a state of mind. It's the spirit of always saying no. No to despair, no to meaninglessness. It's about living face to face with the absurd and not blinking. Next up, freedom. And this is a big one. Once you stop looking for meaning from some higher power or cosmic plan, you realize something. You are terrifyingly free. There's no grand rulebook. We have to create our own values, and that makes every choice we make incredibly important. And that brings us to the third part, passion. Look, if this is the only shot we get, the goal has to be to live it as much as possible, right? For Camus, who grew up on the coast of Algeria, this was real and physical. It was about loving the sun, the sea, the feeling of being alive. It's about maximizing our experiences. Now this is where it all comes together so beautifully. Camus takes these three ideas, revolt, freedom, and passion, and wraps them up in one single, powerful, unforgettable image from Greek mythology. He tells us to picture Sisyphus. You know the guy, the one the gods condemned to a life of completely pointless, repetitive work, pushing a rock up a hill just to have it roll back down forever. I mean, what a perfect metaphor for the human condition, right? But then Camus does something incredible. He flips the whole story on its head. He says Sisyphus is not tragic. And you're like, why not? Well, it's because he's conscious. In that moment when the rock rolls away and he walks back down the hill to start all over again, he knows his fate. He sees it clearly. And in that moment of lucid awareness, he is free. He is the master of his own struggle. That struggle fills his heart. And that leads to his most famous, most mind-blowing conclusion. Happiness and the absurd aren't opposites. They're actually connected. See, meaning isn't something you find somewhere out there. It's something you create through your own defiant, passionate struggle in a world that doesn't care. So in the end, Camus leaves us with this incredible challenge. His philosophy starts by looking straight into that abyss of meaninglessness, but it doesn't end there in despair. It turns into this profound and, hopeful call to action, a call to embrace this one life we have with total freedom, with fierce passion, and with a purpose we forge with our own two hands.